right, so we're back with the We Got Issues Hoodlum podcast. And listen, you guys like, subscribe, and
hit the like button
and follow us. Don't make it fun. Like, follow, and subscribe. Hit that button on the right there that says you like the podcast. You know, make us happy. You know what I'm saying? Catch you right back.
Run that.
So, welcome to the show. This is We Got Issues. You got the big dog E-Man, Queen Vic, and of course you got JC over here. We got our friend Denzil coming in here today. Got Tonic Social Club. We're gonna talk about his career with some of the most amazing, talented recording artists. Take us through the 80s, 90s, and to today. What's been going on with you, my friend? Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, brother. So tell, first of all, where you grow up and how the hell did you get in this business?
Oh, man, that's a long story.
Yeah, you make it short.
I have to be here a week for that.
Yeah, at least.
I'm from Oakland.
Yes, sir.
You know, born in Oakland. Now, I gotta say the Bay Area because I was born and I left Oakland about 13. All my family's still in Oakland, but I moved to Pinole Valley. So it's kind of like if you was in
East
South Central and you was in Chatsworth.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's past Richmond.
Yeah. Yo, you know where Pinole is?
Man, come on, man.
That's
Are you serious?
He's big.
I'm bad all day. What are you talking about?
You're the legend of the Bay, JC.
I'll put stones in the streets out there.
It is an old pirate's tale. He's a legend.
So I, and I was always I was a jock. You know, I played every sport, and then music, and I played a lot of different instruments. Like over time, I learned. Started off with a flute, then went to sax, then went to 10 other woodwinds, then went to drums, and then went to piano, and I started playing. And I got hooked on Quincy Jones, like early, like around the 9th grade. Yeah, so it was just like it was just going through his whole background. I said, wow, producers. That's the first thing, because most kids ain't wondering what a producer is.
Yeah, exactly.
But and especially back then, because producers wasn't on the outside, they were on the inside. Sure. But my teacher used to mention him, and all the records I like happened to be his records. I was like, man, this guy is like, what? Yeah, I want to do what he does.
Yeah.
So I started following that, and then I wanted to go to Berklee School of Music. That's in Boston, not Berkeley, California. And I had got a partial scholarship, and I was so happy. And I ran home, I got the partial scholarship, and I had to get it in. I'm actually. I was writing, it's not for my playing, believe it or not. It was actually for, I made a composition, had to make an 8-bar composition in there.
To get in?
Yeah. And you know what, it's like, they had a production degree. Sure. So I said, oh, okay, so what you have to do, and I never wrote any music, but I could read really good, and so my teacher kind of helped me of understanding how to write it out. So I wrote this like passage of 8 bars, and they came back and said, oh, it was amazing. And I was it was original because I had threw like gospel chords and symphonic chords in the same song.
Because you were a real musician.
Yeah, nobody knew how to do it. I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. And they said, well, everybody else usually copies like Bach or jazz. And yours had a combination of stuff, so it was original. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I have the aptitude for it. So I go home and tell my mom, and she's like, oh, great. And she reads it, and she's like, uh-oh.
Where's the other half?
I said, well, what's that? Yeah, she said it's a partial scholarship. So either they're going to pay for your tuition for 4 years or pay for your room and board, and you have to stay on the campus. Right. So I was like, okay, so which one's cheaper? And she's like, well, they both about $20,000. That's like an age.
Oh, yeah.
So it was just like,
oh, no.
I was like, guess I'm gonna be going.
Guess it didn't really matter.
Yeah, and I was like, why can't I get a full one? It was like, oh, those are hard to come by, So yeah, I ended up not going there. I ended up taking the junior college route, and then I came to LA to go to LA's City College, and then to do my second year. And then I transferred to USC, and in the middle of that,
the Trojan in the house, right? Trojan in the house, right?
Yeah. And I was there 6 months. Oh. But what happened was, I ended up working. What happened was, because I got there and it was like all good, but I met over the summer. Over the summer, I would take odd jobs, and one of my odd jobs over the summer, I would go back to the Bay, and I ended up working for a funk band, Confunction, one of the guys' studio, which was Felton Pilot. He was the lead singer and writer, and him and Michael Cooper. Mm-hmm. So I worked at his studio, And then there was a young man that worked at Michael Cooper's. It was Jay. Jay King.
Jay
So
King,
he was
yeah.
going, yeah. And so Jay, I guess Michael's studio was down for something. He came over to get some tapes made. So I said, okay, I'll make them for you. And then we kind of chopped it up, and he was like, oh man, he said, what you do for Felton? I said, well, I'm just learning how to produce and all this other stuff. He said, oh, that's great. I write raps and, a whole bunch of other stuff. So he said, maybe we could hook up sometime to do some music. And I said, okay, but I live in LA now, so I got to go back and forth to LA. So he said, okay, well, we'll just chop it up. So, I didn't hear no more about it. I ended up starting to go to USC, end up working at South Bay Galleria down here at Blue Chip Cookies. Yeah. And I get this call, and my friend comes by, because, no cell phones.
Sure.
So my friend comes by and said, hey, man, somebody just keeps blowing up the phone. So I told him, I could give him your work number. I didn't want to give them to you, so I came out to just tell you. I said, yeah, give him the work number. So
the old school days, everybody had to get in the car, drive down to give him a message.
But luckily he left, he was coming home coming to work from the house.
Right,
he said, this dude, so he worked in the same mall. So he kept saying, man, this dude keeps calling. So he calls me over at the place, and he said, yeah, this is Jay. And I'm working at this label in Sacramento. This dude let me help run his label, and it was a D-boy, back then.
Absolutely.
All the dope guys.
They were the angel investors back then.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. That's how you got the money. You got in. So he said, they looking for. He got a bunch of acts and he needs a producer. So I was telling him about you. So I was like, okay, so how much he paying? He said he's gonna pay you $100 a song. I said, oh, I'm there. $100 a song, right? You been talking about niggas, right? So I was like, man. And I'm looking at calculating, if I do 10 songs per act, oh man, I can get cleaned up. $4,000. So I'm like, he's gonna fly me up. I'm negotiating now, but he's gonna have to fly me up. Oh yeah, we got you. So he flies me up. I go up there. My mom don't even know I'm left LA now, not going to school. I get up there, and we started working on the acts, and he had a girl group, which wasn't involved. I came later, but. And it was another rap act and two other rap acts. And so, I was in there working, and then apparently the guy beat up his girlfriend or something to go there, and she told everything. And so he goes to jail. So now me and Jay is sitting there pretty much like he had to deal with McCullough Records, which everybody did back then. And
they're pressing up.
Yeah, exactly. And so we was like, well, what we do now? And so we was just kind of sitting around. And I said, well, dope dealing. He already paid me, so I'm gonna do this record. We gonna finish the record. I don't care if he's in jail or not. So we finished the records, and believe it or not, we had 8 hours left in the studio, like one day left, one lockout day. And he said, man, this guy, a friend of mine's brother wrote this song, and I think we could sell the song, but it needs to be produced, right? And then I said, well, let's check it out. So he plays the cassette. For all you don't know, cassettes, they're like square things that you used to have to put into the player.
And turn it around and get stuck.
Exactly. To a minute. So anyway, he plays it, and it was rumors, right? And I was like, oh, that's pretty dope, And I started hearing things immediately. So I said, let's get it in. Let's get the right in, which was Mike Marshall, which he was the lead singer of Time and Social Love, and he actually sung I Got Five on it. He was the singer of that, and that came years later. That's a whole other story. Yeah, well, he didn't sing with us in Samuel Wells song. But he wrote the record. He came to the studio. We hooked it up, and it just came out. And we wanted these big drums. Back then, everything was the big drums. UTFO and the first thing, I think, who else was there?
Houdini Friends?
Yeah, well, they hadn't came out yet, but it was Run DMC.
Yeah.
And it was like, and so all those big drums, and I was like, oh man, we should put some big drums on this. So we was trying to figure out how to get these drums bigger. We had these little cheesy drums and had to make them big.
No.
And so the engineer we had was Carl Herlofferson from Sweden.
Okay.
And he was dope. He was like, well, maybe we could throw some reverb on it, and then we could gate it, and we used to start compressing. I knew a little bit about compression and stuff, from school. So I was like, we would just mix with it, and all of a sudden we got these big sounding drums. I was like, oh, that's it. So, that's where that song, everything got really big with Rumors. Okay. So we do the record, and now we sit here, we got the record, and we were trying to shop the record. Jay knew a couple people, so he was trying to shop it to people, and people was like, yeah. So he was like, man, I like this record. I said, I like this record too. He's like, well, let's just press it up. Because we had some room to press up some more records. Yeah, so we said we're going to press it up. And I was like, well, we need a group. Like, at least a name on it. Right, yeah. So we know Mike is there, but that wasn't cool. Mike Marshall and Rumors. I was like, So then Mike said, well, my friend has a DJ pool, like a DJ thing at Record Pool, thanks, at Berkeley High School. And so, and it's called Timex Social Club. What a name.
What was it?
Timex Social Club. Social Club and Rumors.
That's tight.
That ties together.
It
so we was like, put that on there. So we put that on there. There was no group. It was just Mike, and me at the studio. So then at this point, make a long story short, as it exploded. The record exploded.
Now, who did the artwork?
Huh?
Who did the artwork? Album artwork?
The brother of one of the guys in the group, and it might have been Mike Marshall's cousin, but I can't remember. But he was friends doing that, and he did the art. He's from the Bay Area, and he ended up having a big art store doing that art.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Club Nouveau and everything else, and he started doing other stuff. But the record took a minute. That's what I was telling you. It took money, minute, and we could talk about that on the sidebar. But it ended up blowing up.
Broke at the clubs.
Oh, it broke at the clubs.
That's where I had my nightclubs when that record came out.
And boy, when it blew up,
stop spreading those rumors.
I can't hear you, Denzil. So there's a bad sing going on.
Bad sing on the mic.
Great sing over here.
So it just blew up.
Yeah, so it blew up.
So McCullough was working the record?
Yeah, McCullough. Well, no, a guy named Randy Rand we ran into. Was that like a BRE? You know how you had the urban network or BRE and stuff. So we was there, and we just had some records. We was passing them out. And he said, "What you guys got?" And he said, "You got a promotion, man?" We was like, "No." He said, "Well, let me hear what you got." So he listened, and he was the only person outside the millions of others, because it sold 5 million, 4 plus, 12 inches. It was just a 12-inch single, and he ends up. And we got 0 from it. That's the other end. But he ends up saying he was the one that said he liked it. He said, I don't know about the other records, but that Rumors record, something special about it. So he takes it off, and and like I said, long story short, it blew up. So from that, then we had to make a group. Try to make a group. They didn't want to sign to us at that point, and Jay was having it out with him. So they was just like, Michael was like, I'm gone. So they ended up going to Dave Lucchese. Over there, he had Daniel Records by Fantasy. So we had to come up with a group, and Randy said, man, you need to find a group crash, because I didn't know somebody at Warner Brothers who wants to sign them, which was actually Benny Medina. Yeah, and so Benny, and I knew Benny, another sidebar story. But anyway, he comes to Oakland, and we literally put the group together probably 3 days before he got there. Wow. And so Tommy was already a partner of mine. We was actually going to start working together doing Split, and he actually came in on the remix of Rumors, so he was around too. And then I went to school with Samuel, which his name was Grady at the time. But he was like an underclassman. I knew his brother. I played ball with. So I said, your brother still sings? He said, yes. I said, tell him to come to the studio at 4 o'clock. So he comes in, and then Jay knows Val from Stanford. Yeah. And so he said, yeah, I know this girl that could sing. So they all come in, and then we're sitting there thinking like, well, this ain't really like the sound of the group, what they did Timing Social Club, but other than the music. Right. But so we say, well, anyway, we'll work through that. So Benny comes, and he sees me, because I've had previous history with Benny being at Hitsville. I used to hang out at Hitsville and stuff. And cool. And he said, I want to offer you guys a deal, but I got to know it's you, because everybody's out there claiming to be, Timing Social, the person who did the music of it. So he gave us a demo budget, and we did Jealousy. Oh, okay. And he said, oh yeah, definitely it's out of here, because everybody else didn't sound like that. So we had the sound, we had the big drums and all the stuff. So, so we ended up getting signed, and then like this, we were trying to capitalize on the Rumors record. We had a why you treat me so bad? You know, we had like 4 top 10 records, and it was like, you know, now we out of here. So then at this point, it was like we was beefing with Jay, you know, one of the members of the group, and me and Tommy was like, yeah, I really ain't trying to be no artist. Like, I'm cool. It was good to have the experience because even as a producer, it helped us to produce other acts.
Right, and
like
understand where they're at. And
the Vogue and be able to relate. Because we were there and we were there at a high level.
Right.
So it was like, okay, now I know what it takes. So it was like a good education. So at that point, we was like, hey, we gonna move on to be producers. So we left Club Nouveau after the first album, and then we went and we met with Polygram, and it was Ed Eckstein. And Ed was like, hey, I love you guys' work. He came saw the show, and we was talking. It's funny, he came saw the show, and that's when we had one of our biggest fights. You know, it's always like that when an executive shows up and you're fighting, like physically, like going at it. Hey, fellas. And he's like, hey, fellas. And we're like, oh shit, that's our meeting.
I'll get you guys later on. Later on, we'll see. Hey, what's up, man?
What's up, man? So we ended up going there, and then he was like, hey, I like you guys' sound. I would like to bring something like that. I just started Wing Records, and he only had Vanessa Williams. So he said maybe we could work with her. And I said, well, we have an act. Now, let me tell you, I'm just like talking off the side of my neck. Tommy knew the Tonys. I hadn't even met them. But I hadn't, you know, I just like, I can't lose this opportunity. So I would say, hey, we got this act.
Just drop
the Tony, and wait a minute, Ed says, wait a minute. And he looks back and he goes through his little cassette deck. He said, man, I got this little cassette of him here. And he said, I said, well, did you like him? He's like, yeah, it wasn't my type. You know, because everybody was trying to sound like coming off of that Prince stuff back then. But it was getting old. Like, so nobody, and labels was getting off of bands because they were just too much. So I said, they're not going to sound like that. I said, so whatever I don't even need to hear that. I said, whatever they sound like, they're not going to sound like that. Just imagine them with our sound. And then he was just like, okay, again, demo budget. So then we did Little Walter. And when he heard Little Walter, he was just like, oh, okay, I'm down with it. And he saw the band, and the band had a good look to him. And he's like, boy, he had to hard sell that band because everybody was just off of bands. And if you think about it, they were them and Mint Condition became years after. Was the last bands.
I admit it at A&M.
Okay, yeah. So they were the last bands.
I got lucky with Pretty Brown Eyes.
Pretty Brown Eyes.
You had to work that record.
I worked that record.
You had to work that record.
I had to work all of it. I had to work low key too.
Yeah. It was just really hard. Y'all, the Jimmy Terry stuff. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it went into that part of it. So then the Tonys grew up. So from that, me and Tommy was like, you know what the world needs? Girl group, and we was saying that while we were in club.
No, were they? Did you bring them in as you just produced Tony, or were they?
No, we produced. Yeah, we did the whole album. They were signed to us.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they signed. They were signed to us, and you know Ray, and I'm the reason Ray became the lead singer because it was actually Dwayne.
What?
Yeah, and then I was just like, I heard Ray, and I was like, man, Ray sounds like young and youthful and had this energy. And he's like, well, I never do that. I don't do the lead singer. That's Dwayne stuff. And he's just like, I was like, well, you're going to be doing it now. So we really had to coax him to do it.
How was Dwayne?
Dwayne was, you know, they were so happy to have a deal. They were cool.
A lot of them don't think they got the pipes for it.
That's crazy.
He was great.
I just can't comprehend someone not wanting to be a lead singer.
Oh, you see.
Yeah, and I get it.
She's like, well, how do they not want to do
Well,
that?
he didn't because he was playing. He was like, you know, you have a role in the band, and everybody has a role in the band.
It's a lot more responsibility.
Right,
it is.
Exactly.
If something falls
not everybody
through.
wants to be the lead.
And
That's
everybody,
pressure.
That's true.
And
Being
his
in the group, it was
personality
like
wasn't
that.
like that. His personality was like, I'm good being roll with it. But he was young, good-looking kid, and he just had this energy. But his voice had an energy.
And it had a distinct sound.
He had a distinctive sound.
Yeah.
And I said, if that's heard on the radio, that people immediately identify that. They don't know who it is. And so it worked. And so he ends up, and they end up taking off and rolling off. And then at that point, we were in the middle of doing another act for, I think it was like a group called Channel 2. And in the middle of that, Sylvia approached us, approached our manager, Sylvia Roan, and she was at Atlantic Atco at the time. There wasn't no East Est and
Atco.
stuff. Yeah,
right.
it was Atco Atlantic, and she said, hey, you know, maybe you guys could, you know, we could use use your talents here. So we talked to her and we talked about what we wanted to do. But she was more interested of me and Tommy doing records, like producing records like a Quincy Jones, and then have a bunch of acts on it. And we wasn't really into it, but we were gonna take the deal.
Yeah.
So I kept saying, but I got this idea for a girl group. She's like, oh, don't talk to me about a girl group. Because she had Climax and they was all problems, and she just had problems with girl groups. So she's like,
There's
always
gonna be a problem.
I think there's a girl group that never been a problem.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Ever.
And so she was selling, and Ed had the same kind of thing about girl groups. And, they just, I was like, man, but it ain't gonna be like that.
Expensive.
If you understand the dynamic of where everyone's place is in the group, then it works.
Yes, exactly. But it's you have to.
That never happens.
You have to get the right. And it could start off that way. And somebody's going to,
Somebody's going to be the diva.
It's like friends of mine, girls that go, we're going on a trip. Now every time I'm saying like, okay, I'm waiting when they come back, someone not friends with somebody.
Right.
The guy's going to.
Now let me tell you, you're right.
Someone starts becoming the favorite.
Everybody's right here, but in the En Vogue situation, it was not really like that. It didn't go down like that.
Let's talk about that. Let's get. We can hit that when you actually.
Okay. So we'll get to it. So anyway, we end up going through all these processes of. We end up doing our own record with a Foster McElroy record. We had like Samuel on it, and we had some other artists on there. And then we did this audition, and I didn't do the audition the cattle call way. Mm-hmm. I kept saying I just had friends and family and people I knew that I trusted musically to send me women that could sing.
Right.
And so people were sending me cassettes in, and I was just going through, and I was gonna take my time. I was saying, hey, I'm going to invite people. If I think they're worthy to make it to the audition, I'll invite them instead of just having a bunch of people come in. And so,
you were holding the auditions.
So we didn't have the audition yet. We're just getting tapes in. And I would get tapes and pictures. And I was like, I like her. So I moved things aside. And long as a year was going by, I was gathering things. I said, okay, it's probably time to do an audition for this. So I did interviews. Something told me, let me interview them first because of the whole site thing.
Sure.
So smart of you.
One at a time, right?
Very
Instead of just having them in there singing and stuff and they look good, just like, let me talk to them and see who they are.
It's like a chemistry audition.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. I would have dinner with their managers or moms or whoever they wanted to bring. And I say, hey, we sit there and we just talk. And then it's like, well, I can do this and sing. I said, I don't want to know nothing about that. Right. Let's just talk. About other stuff. Right. So when I start to get to know everybody, I start to realize these certain personalities. And then I said, okay, this could work. And I already knew they could sing because I had already moved them to the side of my shelf. So I'm pulling from that. Right. So I said, okay, I'm going to have an audition on September or whatever. Right. And so I called them all up. I called only 6. And I called 5 and 6 showed up. And then 1 canceled at the last minute. 6 said they would come, 1 canceled. So I ended up with 5. And most of the people had to be, I told everybody they had to be from the Bay, but with the exception of a girl named Terry, because she flew out with her little tuition money from, she was going to Prairie View in Texas. And she comes out and says her friend told her about the audition, and I had picked her tape. So I was like, I didn't know she was out here. And I said, hey, you're going to have to move out here because we're not having this long distance thing. She said, okay, I'll do that. Just, I'll do it if I made the group. Right. I definitely would come out. I said, okay, fine. And she, I liked her personality. She was really cool.
So familiar.
And everybody else was pretty cool. So they come to the audition. I wrote, it ended up being on the album, Waiting on You. And I was singing the demo, which I would sing the demo. I could carry a tune, but not really that good. I can't be a singer, but I could get by. But it was on purpose because I wanted to see if they can interpret it. Because we're going to be working together and I got to be up there. So they end up, and I gave them 2 hours. And I told them to go sit in the car or sit in another room and all of them get together and figure it out. Who's going to sing what and do all this stuff. So then they were in there, and then Cindy immediately starts organizing everything. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and then another following in. I was like, okay. And then Tommy just watching them.
The leader sorted herself out.
Yeah, exactly. And so she comes in there, but she was such a soft leader. So she was Cindy's a very passionate person.
Right, she's not
she's like, she was like,
That's
this and this.
Anyway.
No, exactly.
You
So she knew that too. I think her background being a passion girl and everything, she knew how to kind of organize women. So
and make it think it's their idea. That's the trick.
And she was good at that, and not, and putting people, keeping people apart that shouldn't be sitting together. So like she's good at personalities.
Right.
So she ends up going in the room. They all go in the room, and we had the mic on, so we could hear them talking.
Right.
Yeah, we were sitting in the booth and stuff, and they were just like so
you were big brothering them?
Yeah, we was big brothering them. And one was just complaining. Man, it's hot in here. And they ain't got no water, and it was hot in there on purpose. I wanted torture. I wanted hell.
You wanted to see if they could deal.
I wanted hell. And so I made it hell for everything. I said, you got 2 hours to learn these lyrics, and you get one take at the lead. One take. One take. You burp, better keep going. You get one take. So this one girl keeps just whining and all the rest of it. So anyway, they get behind the mic, we start singing, and I start getting the backgrounds. And every time a couple of them got together, it was just like, dang, they sound like they've been singing together before, and Tommy noticed it. I was just like, I kind of like the 2 of them together, and then there was another 2 that fit really good as well. And so I was like, as that was developing, I was kind of keeping notes of that. So then the lead singing part come. Now, Terry hadn't showed up yet, but she was trying to get there. She was stuck at San Francisco airport, and the person who was supposed to give her a ride didn't show up yet.
Oh my
so
God!
So she calls and said, "I'm here. I just trying to get there," and I was like, I don't know. So I got to say, well, get here when you can, because the audition, you got to get here when time comes. So while she's trying to get here, we're getting them singing. So here comes, I don't know if you know all the En Vogue names, and I'll run through it. So Cindy, who was the lead singer to Hold On,
she might have pop up on the screen.
Yeah, she comes on first, and she sings, and she was like, "Wow, this is a real soulful song, and I don't really do soul. I do jazz." And then she's not telling us that. I could hear in the microphone, kind of telling somebody else that. And I said, "Okay, let's sing." So she goes in, she nails it, and she actually, her pitch was just perfect all the way through the song.
Nice.
And she was right. She didn't have that type of soul going, but she could sing.
Right.
And she had a nice high natural soprano tone. So I was like, okay, that's a note. That was cool. So then the next person comes in was this real short girl that really wasn't supposed to. She substituted for another girl that couldn't make it. And she substituted herself. Which was Maxine. And I said, I was like, wait a minute, did I invite you? She said, well, my friend so said I can come with her. And to go. Yeah, so I did. I was like, whatever, just get behind the mic. So she gets on the mic.
Yes.
She kills it. I was
that makes me so happy. I love those stories.
Yeah, so she killed it. Like, I was just like, ooh. So I was
she
like, okay.
created her
that
own
came
opportunity.
up, the surprise, pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
So then this other girl, the complainer, I won't mention her name because she didn't end up in the group.
Right.
But she was in there, and she actually was really good. But she was are we going to get fed?
Oh, yeah.
Are we going to, she's not saying this to us, but she said it on the microphone.
Yeah, exactly.
I ain't gonna like this song. Oh, and she was just everything. Wrote these lyrics. It was just everything with her, and I was just, ooh, she's gone. She's out.
She's gone.
Yeah. So then, fourth comes in was Dawn. Dawn comes in, and she's real kind of meek voice. Okay, I'm gonna do the best I can. Okay, I think it's a hello. And I was like, oh, this is not good. I said, wait a minute, did I hear her tape? So I'm going back trying to remember how she was going. How I invite her here?
Yeah, how'd you get here?
And she opened her mouth and started singing when that music came on. She's the one ended up on the song for her audition song ended up as a single.
Oh wow!
Wow, that's awesome.
So, because she nailed that so good that she was like, okay, I think I did okay.
Something like that, is that right?
How you doing?
So she sits back. So then we was about to wrap up. Terry shows up. So I was like, okay, you did, I understand what.
Right.
So I was just like, okay, go in there. She said, okay. Oh, so Cindy walks in and, okay, girl, you just have to do this, and it's a little soulful line, and then we had these harmony parts here, and they explaining to her. And even Dawn was trying to help her out. So she was like, okay, I think I got it. So she came in, ran through some background parts. I was like, okay, cool. And I knew she could sing. I remember her because she sung a Whitney Houston song on the audition. audition thing. And I was just like, oh, okay. She nailed it. So
Yeah.
I was just like, I knew she could sing, but I wanted to see how she interacted with everybody else and how she fit on the pressure of the song.
Right.
So she came in, and the song really wasn't in her range, but she nailed it too.
Okay.
So I was just like, oh, she can really
Hard to
sing.
sing, yeah.
So then I was like, exactly. So, and I was only gonna take maybe 1 or 2 out of this batch and do everything over again,
Right.
and then get another 2. And we really wanted 3 people.
Right.
So I was like, well, I like 2 of them already. Like, you know, so Cindy was a lock into me, and Maxine, because she could sing really low, her range was pretty good, and Cindy was a good high singer.
Balance.
So I said, okay, the other 2. And I like Dawn in the middle, but then Terry was good in the middle. So I was just like,
Keep
I
all
said,
of them.
so wait, well, that came later. So we sit there and we were like talking about it, and I'm just really frustrated. Like, man, I really like her, and I'm like that. And Terry was leaning to getting cut because she lived in Texas.
Yeah.
Really, it was the only reason. But
Geographically undesirable.
yeah, exactly. And so she says,
Geographically
maybe. Yeah, pretty much was it.
Yeah, like a dating site.
He was kind of right. It was just like, I was like, man, that's gonna cost money, and people want to go home all the time.
Yeah.
And she needs to live here and be with them, you know. And so it was about that. And then Tommy said, well, who said it had to be 3? I'm like, I don't
No.
know. He said, you know, the chords sound better if it's a 4th one. Hell, even the 5th one, but the 4th one, you know, this piece of dope harmonies. And I was like, you're right. That was as simple as that. So that's how it ended up. It was like, okay, it's gonna be 4 of them. And so we called them all, and they was excited. And Terry moved to the band. They started living together. And Cindy had an acting career. She had started acting and start rolling with it. And so I told Sylvia. And so she was like, I don't know. So we were working on our album. So we put them on our album. And so the Waiting on You song did pretty good off our album. And she said, okay, I get it, you know. And so she's like, okay, let me, you know, see some more. So we start doing demos and doing other songs with them and putting them on other stuff. And they sung on some Alexander O'Neal because we worked with Jimmy Terry.
So you had Sherelle too.
Yeah. So we did the last album. We did the Christmas album with them. We did Drummer Boy with them.
Nice.
We went to Minnie and did it. And then we did this song called Midnight Run on True Man album.
All True Man.
And In
I
Vogue
wrote that
sung
record.
on that. Yeah,
It's a great record.
In Vogue sung on a record called Midnight Run.
Because that came out of Taboo.
Yeah.
Which was Clarence.
Yeah,
Hill.
yeah.
D, hold that thought because I want to come back to you. We got to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we got more with Big D. All right, so we're back. We're back with the We Got Issues Hoodlum podcast. And listen, you guys like, subscribe, and
Hit the like button.
and follow us. Don't make it fun. Like, follow, and subscribe. Hit that button on the right there that says you like the podcast. You know, make us happy. You know what I'm saying? Catch you right back.
Here we go.